Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 3 of season 6. We're now in the book of Galatians, if you haven't joined us, and we are following Paul as he is writing back to the Galatians after he's visited them on the first missionary journey. So, for those of you who have been with the podcast, we've been walking through the book of Acts. Now, the book of Acts talks about the first missionary journey, then the second, then the third, and then Paul going to Rome and getting shipwrecked a bunch of times. And this book was the first book, Galatians, is the first book written of the New Testament. That's not the book of Acts. The Acts was actually written later, but where this was written in the chronological history of the book of Acts, the first missionary journey was described in Acts chapter 13 and Acts chapter 14. So right at Acts chapter 15 is when this was written back to the people he had just visited on the first missionary journey. All right, so yesterday we talked about the pleasure of God. What pleases God? It's a great question. And Paul tells us one of the things that please God is revealing himself. So let me read our passage for today. It's about Paul's call, and we're going to dissect about his qualifications here in a minute. All right, so I'm going to start in Galatians chapter 1, verse 16. 15. When he who had set me apart before I was born and who called me by his grace was pleased to reveal his Son to me. That's where we got the pleasure of God in Revelation. In order that I might preach him among the Gentiles, I did not immediately consult with anyone, nor did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were apostles before me, but I went away into Arabia. So Paul got converted on the road to Damascus, went to Damascus, then he goes to the Roman province of Arabia, and then here he's going to return to Damascus. Verse 18, then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to visit Cephas, Peter, and remained with him 15 days. I saw none of the other apostles except James, the Lord's brother. In what I am writing to you before God, I do not lie. That's interesting. Verse 21, then I went into the regions of Syria and Cilicia, and I was still unknown to the persons in the churches of Judea that are in Christ. They were only hearing of it and said, he who used to persecute us is now preaching the faith he once tried to destroy. And they glorified God because of me. All right, so Paul is giving his credentials and criteria. Why should you listen to Paul is what he's saying. And so he talked about the character of God, which is that the Lord is pleased to reveal himself. And Paul is shocked because of the Galatians miszealing, if you will. That is, they're barking up the wrong tree and sort of getting the gospel wrong. And what Paul is saying is, hey, this is the big reveal of God, is his gospel. It's something that he entrusts to us. And it's the grace. Another word for the gospel is the grace given me. And so he's mad at the Galatians for deserting and distorting and receiving a gospel contrary, a quote unquote, a gospel contrary. So Paul is going to say, here's the gospel. It's revealed by Jesus. It's revealed by the Spirit of Jesus. And it comes to us under the banner of the Lord's pleasure. God is pleased to do this, and we probably should listen to it. All right, so the question that the Galatians are asking, it really is a good question, which is, hey, how Jewish am I still? Or if I became a believer from a Gentile tradition, how Jewish do I need to be? And what priorities must I have? And where does the Jewish history, what priority does that have? What are the essentials versus the optionals? And what are the things that truly, truly should be left behind? So from a Jewish side, Peter and Paul and the Jews are asking this question. And then similarly, the Gentiles are also asking this question. Kind of like big question is, who are the chosen? How do you get into the family? And then what is the family? Eventually he's going to say, I'll cut to the conclusions in chapter 3. He's going to say, hey, there is neither Jew or Greek. There is neither slave or free. There's no male or female, for you all are one in Christ. Doesn't matter what your gender is, doesn't matter what your job is, doesn't matter what your tradition is. We're all one under Christ. So he's going to get there, but in the meantime, he's saying, why should you listen to me? Because he's going to credential himself, which is from his conversion. Then he goes to Damascus blind, and he's met up with a early believer there, and he immediately starts to preach in Damascus. Now, they don't like it because he's preaching, and they actually want to kill him. And we find out that it's King Aretas who left his administration in 40 AD. And remember, this is when he had to be let down from the wall of Damascus. Then he escapes into Arabia. He's there for about 1,000 days. So I might title this 1,000 Days of Arabia. And that's when I think the Lord he spends time with the Lord. So he perhaps had a ministry there, but I think it was mostly a ministry to him. So Paul's story, after he becomes a believer, he goes to Damascus. Then he's there for a short period of time. He gets some persecution. They want to kill him. He spends 1,000 days in Arabia, 3 years of I think, God revealing himself. Then he goes back to Damascus, and then finally he goes to Jerusalem. Well, the bad news is they want to kill him there in Jerusalem too. And the Hellenistic Jews, they don't like what they hear from Paul, and they try to kill him there. So he's there for about 15 days meeting with Peter, and then he goes to Syria and Cilicia. So this is hundreds of miles away, back in his hometown, and he's there for like 7 to 13 years, something like that, which takes us right up to the first missionary journey. So he doesn't have much apostle contact. In fact, he tells you how many he has, 15 days of apostle contact in that 14-year period of time. He has a ministry, and he has the revelation of God. So why should you listen to Paul? I think it is because I went away to Arabia. I had the revelation of God. I've already had a long seasoned ministry by the time we get to this particular problem, which is how Jewish do I need to be? All right. Thanks for listening. We have now the qualifications of Paul, or at least some of them. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about what he's doing to address this problem of how Jewish I should be. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.